Thank you for joining me on Aspire to Lead. I'm fresh off an incredible VIBDU event in Anaheim, California, where educators came together for honest conversation, meaningful connection, and practical ways to build self-capacity in this demanding profession. While I was there, I had the chance to record live at the VIBDU event, where I had a wonderful conversation with Kim Gamrose, TJ Berry, and Mitch Weathers, and you can watch the full episode now on the VIBDU YouTube channel. I'll also be sharing a bonus episode later this week featuring a section of that conversation focused specifically on leadership and campus culture. If your school or organization is looking for professional learning that supports educator capacity, healthy habits, leadership, or student behavior, I'd love to connect with you. You can learn more about bringing enhance your capacity with healthy habits or the language of behavior to your team at joshtamper.com. Now, I want to introduce my guest today, Ashanti Branch, to the podcast. Ashanti is a recipient of the 2023 U.S. Surgeon General's Medallion, a four-time TEDx speaker. He's a podcaster and the founder and executive director of the Ever Forward Club. His work has been featured on CNN, This is the Life with Lisa Ling, and The Kelly Clarkson Show. He is also the creator of the award-winning Million Mass Movement, which we'll talk about in this episode. It has reached more than 75,000 participants worldwide. He has a huge reach. He's got a wonderful voice and a giant heart. So with that, let's jump into this wonderful conversation with my special guest, Ashanti Branch. Welcome to Aspire to Lead, where we empower educators and school leaders to grow, inspire, and thrive. I'm your host, Joshua Stamper, author, speaker, and leadership coach, bringing you conversations that spark transformation, challenge the status quo in education, and equip you to make a lasting impact on your campus or in your district. For more information and resources, visit joshstamper.com as we're looking to ascend to new leadership heights together. Welcome back to Aspire to Lead. I always have just fantastic people that I get to connect with, and I had a special opportunity to be on this week's guest podcast, and now we get to flip the mic. So I have Ashanti Branch here. He's out in California just doing amazing work with young people, with educators, with schools all over this country, and I'm just so honored to have you on the podcast today. So it's so good to see you, sir.
Thank you. Glad to be here with you. I'm excited for this conversation.
I know. I feel like every time we talk, it just fills my cup. It just feels like a beautiful time that we get to join together and talk about, the different things that we're doing. And we have a lot in common. So before we jump into some really important topics today, I'd love for you just to share a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Well, I do this a lot. So you want like a 1 minute version, 2 minute version? Where should I go?
Whatever you want to do is great. I just love being around you. So I love your story too.
Thank you for having me. I'm so glad to be. Talking to educators is often a thing that I feel super excited about. I never planned to be a teacher. Ashanti, when I grew up at, 15 or so, my manifesto said, Ashanti will never be a teacher. You know what I'm saying? My mom was a teacher. When I found out my mom was a teacher, I was like, you went to college and we this broke? Like, what's wrong with you, lady? Like, why would anybody choose this profession? You had kids and you chose a profession that you can barely, we look at these apartments. Can you see the apartment? You see these popcorn in the ceiling? Like all the things I was wondering, like why my mom would have chosen a profession where you're barely getting by. But she loved it. She loved teaching. I helped grade so many papers I remember. I love math. And my journey of like growing up without my father around, my father died before I was born. So there was a journey of like emotional stuff that happened before I showed up on the planet. And then I show up in the city of Oakland, California, a lot of chaos, a lot of violence, a lot of madness, but also like you couldn't be a little boy and be emotional. So I was like always like too much. I was always too sensitive, smiling too much, giving people dirty looks too much. It was like always kind of like figuring out who I have to be in this situation to be safe. And it was exhausting. And middle school, elementary school was a madness. I got suspended probably 30 times, all for fighting. And I never started one of the fights. I don't like to fight. But in my community, there's a rule about what happens if you walk away from a fight, what happens if you let somebody pick on you and not do anything, what happens if you tell the teacher. All those have worse consequences in my community than fighting back. So just suspend me. I'll deal with my mom. But it's much better than dealing with 20 people in my class calling me a snitch, calling me a scary cat. So I'll deal with that mean lady at home rather than the 20 kids in my class. So imagine the journey of like growing up and trying to figure out what it means to be a man when there's no man in the house helping you figure it out. So that's the early startings, right? But when I found out that if you could go to college and get a good job, make a lot of money, you could live happily ever after, I'm like, sign me up for that plan, because this this current situation ain't happy ever after. So I went to college to be an engineer, graduated in civil engineering, started making money, good money. Like I paid all the bills by the first check of the month. I get paid twice a month. I paid all the bills by this first check, and I got the second check just to live life. I didn't even know that world existed. And that's small stuff, right? I mean, I was just a project engineer, but I was like, wow, this is beautiful. And then teaching called me, and I was like, wrong house. Sorry, wrong purpose, passion person, because this person, passion, purpose is not meant to be broke. And teachers are broke. My mom was broke. I know I lived it already. I already did my broke time on earth. I ran from it. And guess what? That calling got louder, bigger. Long story short, I went back to school to become a teacher. And I've been there. That was 2004. I thought I was going to do like the Peace Corps, go 2 years, teach, then go back to make big money. And that was 2004. So somehow it caught hold. And
you got the lifetime contract now.
At the lifetime contract. So that's a long intro, but that's how I got here. And that first year teaching, I started the Ever Forward Club because I knew math. I love math. I came to the work I wanted to teach, not because I had to teach, and I was failing. And so I was like, okay, this is ridiculous. I'm not going to be broke and a failure. I mean, I knew I was signed up to be broke, but I ain't gonna be a failure too. And so the Ever Forward Club was me talking to some young men saying, you're too smart to be failing my class. I like you. Like, there's a lot of these teachers who don't like you. You can fail their class, but don't fail my class because I think you're a good person, right? And it was like the work that I need to do with them, what couldn't happen in the math classroom. It had to happen in a community building. And that's how the Ever Forward Club started, that first year teaching. I mean, if you imagine you told somebody who already is in a job where they broke, hey, you should start a nonprofit. I'm a math teacher. Like that don't even sound good. You know what I'm saying? Like whoever would want to be like, I want to work at a nonprofit. Definitely not a poor boy growing up where you like, no, that doesn't sound good. I'm good. I want a more profit. Can I get a more profit job? You know what I'm saying?
That's weird. That term doesn't exist. That's weird.
It does not exist.
But we're going to change that. We're going to coin that phrase because we're talking about value in the monetary sense, but obviously your heart and your cup is being filled in these different ventures, right? Not only being a teacher, but what you talked about, the Ever Forward Club, and I want you to talk about that. I want you to talk about, because you just touched on a little bit about kind of the inspiration about the creation of that, but I want you to go a little bit deeper about what you're hoping this organization is going to do specifically for young men, because I think as you're going to talk through this, we're going to see a clear connection to your childhood and kind of what you were needing as a child to what you're providing now as an adult.
Oh, absolutely. When I was in school, I was good at math. I liked math. I saw kids in my class who were good at math, but didn't show it. Like I can see they're brilliant. Now, if you're an astute person and you pay attention, you can tell when somebody's bright. Like you can just feel the energy from them. You can hear how they phrase and you hear how quick they are with responses to things. You're like, wait, how are you failing my class? And you are so brilliant. And so I realized that in my community, smart wasn't cool. And so when Ever Forward Club started, it was me saying, well, look, outside of classroom, we're going to have some conversation. And more, it was like, let's make school fun. Like you are angry often. And when I tell young men that you're emotional, they hated it because I'm like, I ain't emotional. What you talking about? I'm like, dude, you angry all the time. Don't you know anger is an emotion? Like you can't just choose which emotion. Like you angry all the time. I have not done anything to you. I have not taken anything from you. I'm not like, why are you always angry? And I knew it wasn't me, but I knew that I couldn't get them to talk about it if I couldn't break through the walls of what they were believing that manhood was about. And in that community, tough, strong, having money, cars, women, those were the values that the community said makes you a real man. And so being nice to Mr. Branch ain't the thing that the community was highlighting. And so Ever Forward was this place of like, what would it be like if we could create a space for young men to have these conversations in a healthy way? And this is 2004. I mean, we talk a lot more about young men now today. I mean, they're the most researched entity probably of anything right now, young men and boys, because they are struggling. In most of the factors of wellness, they're struggling. And what we know is that even if you just look at the data of, sadly, of incarceration, 94% of people incarcerated are men. Maybe it's 93 now. Maybe it's higher. Wait, how is it that men are incarcerated at 9 times the rate of anyone else? Well, a lot of them are taught and trained in a lot of communities, suck it up, bottle it up, man up. And so we tell them to get rid of all these empathic emotions, only show tough, hard, strong, dominance. And then we wonder why they walk around angry all the time, because their heart has been shut off to that. So Ever Forward was like, what if we could create this in a space, in a classroom? And we built that space. Now, it took work. Some young men were having like, I've been waiting for this all my life. And then week one, they're opening up. They're ready. They're like, blah, I've been waiting to let's talk about this stuff. And some young men, it takes weeks and months, because they're like, I don't know if I can trust this space. I don't know if I can trust, you're going to use this against me. If I tell you what's happening at my house and what's happening with my family, you're going to use it against me. So therefore I have to guard it. So even in a space where you're creating safety, they have not built trust yet. And so it takes time. Every young man is going to be different. So Ever Forward is designed around that. And when we started this work, I was just one teacher at one school. And we think about like, well, what does that look like as a teacher who didn't plan to be a teacher is now running this thing on the side? Well, the vision got way bigger than my classroom could hold, you know? And so that's why I'm doing it now full time. But it's a hard work. When I started the Ever Forward Club, every young man didn't have a cell phone in their pocket. So I'm not trying to battle. When I ask them to come to an event, hey, we're going camping. They're like, well, who going to be there? What are we going to do? I'm like, I don't know. We're going to go camping. Like, just let's go. Back then, they didn't have a whole lot of other, they may have a video game, but it wasn't like now they, in their phone, they have a device that's telling them, oh, I got a bunch of friends I need to spend time with. So I can't go to your thing, Mr. Branch. I can't go to that thing because I don't think that my friends who are in this device, not in real life, in a device, I can't be without them. And you're like, okay. And so we're having to compete with and not only is it just this social kind of part of social media, we're talking about the addiction of these devices, the dopamine hits of like what it's like to not have this thing attached to you at all times. And I mean, I can feel my phone vibrating in my pocket right now. And it's not even in my pocket. You know what I'm saying? Like the idea, I'm an adult. I didn't grow up with this, right? I grew up with the Dewey Decimal System, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
Like you go to the library, you looking for the thing. Like I had slow net. That's what I didn't have internet, right? You want to find a book, you better go find it. You know, thousands of books in here. It must be here somewhere. Now you tell a kid go find a book. They're like, oh, I already ordered it. It's on the way. What do you mean?
I already listened to it. It was on an audiobook.
I already got the update of what this book is about. Here's a synopsis here. ChatGPT told me this book
exactly.
Yeah, that's the one, right? So a new world.
Yeah, we had to get the Cliff Note. Remember the Cliff Notes, the little thing that you had to go and buy?
That's exactly right. I've purchased several of them, and I borrowed many of them.
That's so funny. Well, everything was a lot slower back in our day, but I want to talk a little bit deeper about this because this is brilliant. I know we're going to talk about the mask, and maybe we can talk about that too right now, but yeah. I wanted to talk more about what you're doing with these young men in regards to building character, confidence, leadership skills, and then something that we don't really touch on a lot, but you mentioned it, was just emotional awareness or emotional resilience. You know, because it's hard for our young people, I would say both guys and girls, as far as identifying the emotion, but then also knowing what to do to regulate themselves or how to deal with those emotions that are building up inside of them. So what are you doing with all those different components with your young people?
Yeah. So the model that currently exists, which has evolved over the last 22 years, is about building a space where they can come and have regular conversations about how we're doing. And that requires us to just come together. So when we first started, it was every week of the school year. So 40 weeks of school, 180 days. We met every week. We didn't miss a week unless it was holidays, right? Now, that model, if I'm not at a school or we don't have a teacher running a program like that at a school, then it has to be a hybrid. So the hybrid models are different. But what it is we come together, we sit in a circle, and we just start with a check-in. How you doing on a scale from 1 to 10? And everyone goes around. And what we know that a young man will kind of like measure themselves against the person around them. So if the first person starts off as an 8 or a 9 or a 10, then everyone in the room is like, oh, I got to be an 8 or 9 or 10. And what we end up doing is we create a model that's just kind of we just hear echoes of the same number. And I've had one group where one person said 8 and the next person said 8, 8, 8. And you watch them, they were all saying the same number because somebody said the same number. And you're like, oh, this is, they've learned how to work the system. They are like, oh, that's where we got to be. And so we have to flip things sometimes. But the goal of the check-in is that if you check in below a 7, we come back around and check in with you. We try and build a space that you say, oh, you know what? Today I'm not doing so good. I'm like a 5 today. I'm feeling really low today. I'm a 2. Okay, so what's happening? I don't really want to talk about it. Okay, that's fair. Well, just know that we're here for you. 2 is pretty low. A 5 is pretty low. And we use number scale. We help them understand that the check-in lets me ask for help without having to say, I need help. The check-in is like, I give a number and automatically everyone knows, give me a little grace, give me a little space, treat me a little bit gently right now because I'm not in a good mood. And I think sometimes we end up dealing with young men in the offices, and administrators do, when a young man was a 2 or 3, 4, and no one recognized it, no one asked, and then somebody pushed their chair, took their pencil, looked at them wrong, and boom, they've exploded, and they got an emotional landmine here. But it wasn't that one little thing. It was the fact that that student walked into school already ready to launch, but no one checked in, no one asked. And so now, if I know that you're having that moment, okay, I'm like, okay, so this is going to be a day I need to, like, okay, we need to treat right here. Because, as a mentor, even a facilitator, I'm a little pushy. I'm not pushy because I'm trying to hurt you. I'm pushy because I want more of you. I want more from you. I want you to be your best self. And so as a teacher, what I've had to do is when I began to bring those things that I learned with those young men into the classroom, you have a young person who's like, I'm in a bad mood. I'm like, how did I know that? Like, I
get those psychic abilities.
Well, I appreciate your confidence in my ability to know how you feel at every given moment. The fact that I have 120 of you every day. Like, how about this? How about if you're having a bad mood, everybody? Look, I can't read your minds. So when you come in, if you're having a bad day, walk up to me and be like, hey, Branch, I'm having a rough day. Give me a little space. Got you. But if you come in, I'm expecting you're a student. And when you're a student, you got to do work. And a student that does work has to have out a pencil. So when I walk over to you and actually take out a pencil, and now you're yelling at me because I should have known you were in a bad mood, you are expecting me to read your mind, know you in and out, know everything about you, and be able to somehow know that in this moment you were a landmine that didn't want to get touched or talked to. That's not reasonable. And so what I try to do, what I learned from the young men in the workshop, in our breakout sessions, was, I need to apply this in bigger places because it's happening all over. And what we want as educators is to have a good relationship with students. But hey, I'm pretty perceptive. I pick up on a lot of signals, but I don't know everything, right? But I've started learning, okay. Are you okay today? What's happening? Oh, nothing. I'm fine. I'm like, okay, well, let me know if something's up, because I'm feeling some energy that's a little bit off. And then you can see that student begin to be like, oh, wait, somebody noticed something. Because if you got good mask, if you've been always having good mask and everyone you tell how you're doing, I'm fine, I'm good, I'm great, because that's the answer you normally give, then why would anybody assume anything different? But once you give permission that, oh, wait, I can come and tell you that I'm not having a good day. Yeah, tell me so I can give you the room. And then I may not even call on you today. Okay, how about I give you a day I won't call on you at all? As long as you just pretend to do what I need you to be doing, then we good, right? Like, you told me ahead of time, we got an understanding. But you can't be like over there goofing off and then think that somehow I'm going to like not say something like that. That doesn't work. Right. And so I think beginning to build room for adults and young people to have healthy conversations gives that room for just awareness. Because some days I come in, I'm having a bad day.
Right.
I've gone to work a couple of times, many times, where I was not feeling very well. But the amount of work I would have to do to get a sub would have been more work than me just going in, not feeling well. So I'm showing up and I'm like, hey, folks, my throat's a little itchy today. I'm not feeling at my best. I need you to work with me today. So, look, we got work to do. I'm not giving a lecture today. Here's the work. If you need something, come over. I got you. But I need you to working with me today, right? And so me finding the space to be able to be honest and open and clear, I'm here. I'm here because I care. And I need you to work with me, right? And so when you can model that, I think students then begin a play. So that's how Ever Forward as an organization, begin to inform my own teaching. Like, if I in a space with these young men can give them room to be open and honest, and I think what ends up happening is all the brilliance in them starts to come out. When you make room to be more of your full self, all of your brilliance can come out. There's a lot of young people who are caretakers. School doesn't measure whether you caretaker. School measure whether you're math, science, English, social studies, all those things. You could be a person who has cared for other people your whole life. You get to school, you feel like you're nobody because nothing that you're good at is measured in school. And so what we began to do is to okay, I see that you got some amazing skills at communication, but math is not maybe your language. So let me help you with this language. And you help me in the classroom with this other language because you're good at that. You're good at picking out when students are there's some drama happening around campus. You know all the tea. How about when you come in, you drop the tea for me, so I know, okay, there's a situation here. Don't sit him with him. Don't do that. As this is going on down the street. Okay, got it. Thank you. Write it down. Okay, and we're gonna move seats today. We gotta move seats today because I wasn't aware that these two were having a battle out there. And so I think when you give students opportunity to find their brilliance, I think they shine. They shine.
So this is actually something that you can do with your staff also. So you can do check-ins with adults because Shanti just said something very important, which was I got to work some days and I wasn't feeling well, or maybe something's going on at home that's affecting my emotions, and I'm in that staff meeting and I'm brewing, right? But as the leader, I don't know that. So
right.
For myself, you were talking about modeling. If I want my teachers to do this in the class with their students, well, I need to make sure as the leader, I'm modeling this to you. And so we used to do it with the number system.
Yeah.
Sometimes I do it by color. Sometimes I would even do it with funny memes. Which Baby Yoda do you equate to today, right? And there's things that they can choose from. And so giving them this different options to say, which one are you the most comfortable to then bring to your own classroom? Because it is important. Our kids are coming in every single day with some really intense things that potentially are going on at home that they're experiencing that are very adverse. And some of our kids, as you know, are not coming in to learn. Yeah. They're coming in to survive. And I wouldn't know that unless I ask. And I need to build that trusted relationship with them to potentially make some modifications or some resources depending on what's going on in their world. But we got to ask. So this is such a powerful thing. This is something that is passionate for myself. I can't remember if we had this conversation when I was on your podcast, but it's something that I implemented in my classroom, but then also implemented as a leader. So it was campus wide and made sure that, especially first period in the middle school, we got an understanding of how are our kids coming in. So that way we can make adjustments. But the same thing you can do with your staff. It's going to make a huge difference understanding, okay, my staff member is at a 2 right now.
That's right.
They're probably not going to be all there for the staff meeting. And instead of, filling in that blank or making assumptions or judgments based on their participation, hey, I already got to check in. I already know. We're going to leave them alone. Shantae's having a bad day. I'm not going to press him.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where the mask came from. The mask as an activity came from that. Like this idea of like, imagine if I always ask you, say we work together and I see you every day and we're walking down the hall and I say, hey, Joshua, how you doing this morning? What's your go-to answer? We're walking down the hall.
I'm fine.
Yeah, fine.
Yeah,
and
good.
Have you ever told a teacher or responded to that question in an affirmative way, but you actually weren't doing fine? Have you ever said?
Oh, many, many, many times. I had so much to do. This wasn't a time like I wasn't gonna stop down and have a conversation with you. I was probably walking extremely fast, going to, my radio had gone off. I'm gonna go see a classroom. I'm gonna go to a student issue or behavior. So yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah, absolutely. And imagine how many times you've asked someone how they're doing. They said fine. So in our minds, oh, everyone around me is doing fine. But I'm the only one not really doing fine. But I told them I was doing fine, but they're really doing fine. And that part. And so when our work was, I moved to a high school. I was doing work at my own alma mater, Fremont High School in Oakland. The young men there were struggling, having similar struggles as what I remember growing up in that school. I was a dean, so I wasn't teaching a class, but I took on an advisory because, I got kids getting kicked out of advisory. And advisory, if you don't know advisory is ideally a space where you just connect with an educator who is like your advisor. And then maybe they're supporting you around just your whole kind of learning process. Maybe there's curriculum that the school has on, but it should be fairly the easiest class that you take compared to your PE standards, right? Like advisory, can you just go in there and pretend? Like, what do you mean? How you get kicked out of advisory? And I realized that was not working. So when I took these young men into advisory, I was like, you're going to be in my advisory. Like all of you that are walking the hall during the advisory period, you're going to be in my advisory. And they were like, what? I'm like, yes. I told the principal, I said, sign me up for an advisory, put them on my roll. I'm going to take them. And man, it was all of my tools that I had been using forever for at that point, like say 10 years, was not working. Like I had tried all of my magic, all of my stuff that was working everywhere else. I'm like, oh, they're impenetrable to this. When the mask came, it was like my last straw of like, and it was for this documentary. They were come filming our work because they had seen the work in other schools, how well it was. I'm like, well, you don't want to come here because it ain't working. It ain't working. And I said, well, what if I just make these young men not talk about it? So the activity is we draw a mask. We write 3 words on the front that are things that we let the world see. We write 3 words on the back of things that we don't usually talk about, don't let people see. They're anonymous. And depending on how you do facilitate the activity, there's a digital version online, but there's also a part that when you do this pieces of paper and you ball them up, those papers become anonymous. They're already anonymous because there's no names on them. All there is a picture with 6 words. And what we find so quickly is that there's so many people going through so many things that you would never know by looking at them. And that's the idea of this mask. So we use it as a metaphorical mask. I mean, I got lots of masks here. Right? I mean, I have real masks, right? This is one of my favorites, right? This is a mask. But imagine how many teachers are walking in your school every day who they got, hey, hello, how you doing? They got the smile on. They got the smile on, and who knows what just happened in the car on the way to work? Who knows what happened last night? Who knows what's happening in their life as a whole? And if we can recognize and be just as adults, we're smart enough to know, but are we aware enough to know? It's one thing to like be intelligent, to be like, oh yeah, of course people are going through stuff that I don't know. But how do we treat them? Do we treat them like what we see is who they really are? Is that how we treat students? Are you goofing off in my class? Or you must not care about your education. You must not care about your learning. That kid could be like, I only come to school to get a break from my night job, which is taking care of these other kids who I didn't even know how to make. So now, oh, you think I care about your class? I'm not even thinking about your class. First of all, you know what I'm saying? Like, and how many times do we not recognize that what's happening behind the scenes will come out? It may come out sideways. It may come out overt. It may come out aggressive. It may come out as silence, but it's coming out. And that's the work that we try and do. So those are the places where we have turned this idea of this mask into a tool. And so we have a goal of reaching 1 million people around the world. We want to reach. We're about to hit 100,000 in the next couple of months. So, but we've got a long way to go. You know, 1 million is a big number. You know, but
it is a big number.
It's a huge number. Oh my God, it feels so far away sometimes. It's like, all right, but it's aspirational, right? The number is the mission, but the work every day is about one mask. Can we invite a person to take off that mask and realize they're not alone? And that's the goal.
So how do we get that number up? Is there something that our audience here can do to do their own mask, or how are you getting this count?
Yeah, well, we have a digital tool that we created in the end of 2019. So millionmask.org. You can go there. Teachers and educators can set up their own account for their school. They can create a code that their school will actually go to that code, fill out the mask. They'll get to see those masks like in a word cloud. So there's a lot of infrastructure we kind of put behind it. Is really easy to use. It's you just like a little drawing tool, and then they write the words in the boxes down below. But it's been what we've learned from educators, and that they've learned is that, oh, I never would have known that so many of my kids were going through X. I never would have realized that so many of our kids over on the outside. You would see this, because that's what they realize is that, we have good masks in this community. Because I never would have known that so many kids are feeling stressed or anxiety or being bullied or feeling not enough, because we've done such a good job of what happens on the front. And that's the beauty of it. So that's the digital version, and there's a paper version. So if educators want to do the activity, they can reach out to us. There's tools on our website that they can download. I think those are the ways that we have tried to create the way for this tool to be of service to educators, and to do it in a way that's healthy and safe. The reason the campaign began was after this documentary that we were in called The Mask You Live In came out. I got a call from an educator who saw me do this mask in this documentary. Now, that when I told you, when they asked to come film, I had tried all of my stuff with these young men. Nothing worked. When I came with the idea of the mask, it was because I needed them not to talk about it, because they would never open up. So I did this anonymous tool for a reason, and I had already been working with these young men for a couple of months. So this educator called me and was like, your activity is unsafe. And I'm like, what activity are you talking about? What's going on here? And they were like, well, I saw the documentary that you were in, and I did the activity with my students. And I'm like, oh my goodness. I hope you didn't just take a random group of students and say, tell everyone in the room about your stuff, and not realize that I had there's a process. You can't just do that. And then I'm thankful for that person who blamed me, right? Because you imagine how many people blame me in silence. They're like, oh, why did you put this person in a documentary? This thing doesn't even work. Well, yes, if you just are trying to use it as a perfunctory tool that doesn't have any meaning to it. So we began to give it away. We created the activity guide. Here is what you need to do. Here are the things you got to be in mind of. The cards are anonymous for a reason. We're not asking people to read their own card. Like, if you're not careful, you would think that people just, I'm gonna tell you about all my stuff.
Airing their laundry out.
Yeah, what's happening here? Like, what is, and I think that that's the part. And for educators who have not even done their own mask, to tell kids, hurry up, you're moving too slow. If you haven't done it yourself and realize, oh, even coming up with 3 words can sometimes, you're trying to find the right words that are not going to come back and bite you, or you're going to find the words that are safe enough to share, or what are they going to do with this card after I write them on these cards. So we had to help educators really, again, learning, oh yeah, it is simple. It is so simple. 1 picture, 6 words. And who cares about the picture? There's no name on it. It's not graded, but it is about connection. And when they recognize, I am able to build a deeper connection because now I recognize that there's so many people in here going through similar stuff. So that's the beauty of it. That's the tool we invite educators to be able to use, because we believe that if they can help see in the beginning of the year, everybody got, I'm saying everybody, there's the new shoe smell and the new backpack smell happening, right? By the time October hits,
the honeymoon period is over.
And that month of October with no holidays is a long month, right?
Yes.
All the way to day 31 for Halloween, and then the sugar highs, right? So we invite that. So that part of, like, if we can know right away in the beginning of the year, oh wow, we have a lot of students dealing with stress. They came back from summer and they're already stressed. They're coming back from summer, they're already feeling anxious. They're wherever they are. Let's do proactive work. Till we work fear. There's a lot of fear happening this year. What's happening? Let's talk about fear. How do we do self-management? How do we do self-care? How do we can do that in a classroom? If your school doesn't have advisory, how about every day in one period we take a minute just to just breathe? Like, if we can begin doing some proactive things, then the eruptions can be more manageable because we've been working on them, right? But I think what schools often do is, and I was an administrator, I was a teacher and an administrator, so I've seen both sides where schools are like, we don't need to do any pre-work. Let's just jump into the year. And then you realize once that October hits, here it goes. I got like 7 kids in the hallway, 3 situations. I got 3 more coming down. And then you realize, oh boy, we're having meltdowns regularly, and that's the work that we get to do to kind of build that connection and community.
Yeah, I love that. And I got to partake. So I was a guest on your podcast, Taking Off the Mask. And if folks want to see it in action, you've got a bunch of different guests that have kind of gone through that process and have talked through their words. So where did this podcast construction come from? I'm assuming it was maybe a piece of what you were talking about as far as the digital resource that you were providing to educators.
I had a dream about it for a long time, but let's say, so 2020 happened, pandemic happened, young people in California went home, and that's first summer, I knew that there were some young men that I knew that being at home for all this time was not going to be a good idea. So I said, well, let's start a program. Let's call it the Social Emotional Leadership Academy. It's going to be virtual. We'll get together maybe once or twice, with all the precautions that we have to have, but we're going to have them doing something meaningful that summer. And so that I had the dream of the podcast. I was like, how am I going to start a podcast? But that summer I was like, well, maybe that can be one of the teams. So I was talking to a young man from Brazil. He was supposed to come to one of our meetings, and none of the students showed up. Like, now our calls were going to be after school, because they're in school all day on Zoom, and then they have to come after school, and none of them showed up. And I'm like getting irritated. And I'm like, you know what? Let's record this call. I'm not sure why they're not here, and record the call with this young man in Brazil. And then all of a sudden, the idea was like, this is the podcast. Like, I've been dreaming about this podcast. I'm in this conversation with this young man from Brazil. I'm talking about what I'm trying to do with these young men, why they're not showing up, and knowing that, oh, I need to do something different. And it was almost like, hey, you know what? This may be like our first episode. I don't even know what that show was going to be about, and that's how it happened. And when he and I talked about our masks, he had done masks with his teacher in Brazil. And so that's how I knew him. And it was so amazing. And then literally when we met the next day, the young men met, I'm like, we need a podcast team. You all are going to be on the podcast team. You all are going to build it out, figure out how does this work? What the platforms we need to use, X, Y, Z. And then they had a thing that they were in charge of. And then it took off. And they literally took it and ran. And they were like, oh, we got this person as a guest. I'm like, stop playing. There ain't no way. And they're like, no, really, look at the email. We just emailed you. And I'm like, I'll go to my email, and I'm like, what is happening here? Right. And it was like, trust him, give him some room. give them some guidance, give them some structure, and trust them. And because they live in the digital world, right? Like they're finding stuff in 5 minutes that I would have taken 15 or 20 or 30, if not more, because that's where they live. That's where they grew up, right? And say, okay, I'm gonna do a little more trusting, right? And that's how the podcast began. So it was called Taking Off the Mask, and it was for men to talk about our masks. And then we moved in the last 2 years to talk to educators more, directly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we'll make sure that the link for the podcast is in the show notes. Also, for the YouTube community, you all already have seen the various websites have been flashing on the screen, but I'll also have that in the show notes for folks so people can take an opportunity to jump on and do their own mask digitally, or they can head over to your website to get the paper version of that to print out. But I'll make sure all those resources are available. I want to talk about another project that you've got going on, which is extremely powerful for our young men. And you have a conference coming up, I believe, this fall. So will you just talk about that?
So this will be our third year of the Young Men's Conference. In the early days of Ever Forward, we were doing an event called the 24-hour relay, where students would walk and run for 24 hours. It was a community building event. And we recognize that over the years, over 20 years, that is not where young people are. It's not for this community. And so the Young Men's Conference started 3 years ago. It'll be November 14th. The way we designed it, we call it the Global Young Men's Conference because we partner with organizations around the world who that week or sometime in that month of November are going to host something for young men in their community. And we want to be a part of like encouraging, inspiring, motivating, whatever it takes for people in their community to say, no one's going to come to my community to save the young men in my community, but I have a heart for young men in my community, so I'm going to do something. And that means just getting together your nephew and his friends and going to a park and having some fun, some food, and we call it fellowship, brotherhood, community talk, whatever it is. It's the third part, right? Some fun and food, and then some conversation around these masks we wear. And it can be an hour, it can be 3 hours. Whatever you can do that will be doable, simple, and right to the point so that young men in your community know that they're adults who care. I think we wonder why they're always on their devices and why and it's because they love them and because they're attracted to them, they're connected to them. So we can create a replacement if we care enough to say, hey, for this hour, we're going to put those devices away and we're going to connect human to human, face to face in some fun, not speeches, but communication and fun. And like, if you have enough fun, you're not going to be in there. But if you don't think anything else is fun, then that's what happens. So that's where the invitation for people to host an event. If you're in a school, our event, the main event is on Saturday here in the Bay Area, Saturday, November 14th, but you can host it anytime throughout the month or anytime, whenever you want. You can host it tomorrow if you want. Like, the goal is there are young men in my community who I want to serve. Here's what I can do. And if you do something small enough, then you will do it again. We don't want to wear you out so that you like, I'm never doing that again. Keep it simple. And then more young men will get served and more young men will never get the place where they're like, no one in my community cares about us. And I think that loneliness, that isolation, if you don't know how to ask for it, you would just basically resolve that it's not available and it doesn't exist. And that's the work. So yeah, Young Men's Conference. We're super excited about it. And so if any of you want to do that, you can just go to our website, everforwardclub.org, and then you can, get information on, we got a bunch of tools and resources there for you to look at to see, okay, here's some ideas of some events I want to do with the young men in my community. And if it's one young man, two young men, like, your community, and we're just trying to provide supports for people, to do the work and however we can inspire that. We're excited to do that.
For sure. Yeah, I definitely want everyone to go to the website. And I know this is an extremely powerful conference. It's a powerful event where it's going to help our young men, which, like you said before, so many of them are struggling. And we need to make sure that we're building spaces for them to learn the appropriate things, similar to what we were talking about before, as far as character and emotional regulation and leadership and all these different things, to make sure that they're going to be productive as adults. And as we know, this is a female dominated industry, and we need to make sure that, our men are stepping up and giving opportunity to speak in the lives of young men coming forward and moving into beautiful spaces like this. So kudos to you for constructing this. I love this idea so much. And I know it's going to be awesome for all of these young people. So with that, we're going to be closing down because I can't believe we've already spent 40 minutes together. I think we had this problem before on your podcast where I think we just need to do long form, maybe like a 3-hour conversation or something that people can tune into, because
That's right.
we are so simpatico. Like I want to riff on so many more topics that you've touched on, and maybe I'll just have to have you back on the podcast to go through those. For our aspiring and current leaders, if there's something that they can do today, tomorrow to enhance their leadership journey, what would you recommend?
Yeah, I think the basic thing is you either take out a piece of paper or you go to millionmask.org and you create your own mask. And once you get clear that there is so much more happening behind the scenes than people can see, it will open the window of every time you meet a teacher, you meet a connector, you meet a staff member, you meet a colleague, and you ask them how they're doing and they say fine, they may truly be fine. And if you care enough, you will be like, well, just so you know, if you're ever not doing fine, just give me a call. If you're ever not doing good, just call me. If you're ever not doing okay, I got you. Sometimes they just may need permission to not feel like they're burdening you with their stuff. And it may not be your colleague. It may be your child. It may be your spouse. It may be your parent. It may be your sibling. Because I think if we don't get careful, we may do it more than we think we do. Hey, how you doing? Or we may just even give them a permission. Hey, I hope you're well. All right, I'm well, right? If you hope I'm well, I shouldn't deny you what you hope. So let me not tell you that I'm actually not doing well, right? So how often those small little things close the door for permission for us to be able to let people know how we're really doing. So just be open and have an amazing year. Joshua, I'm so glad that you have me here. So thank you. I appreciate you. However our work can serve, we put out videos and content. So any of those, please share them if they feel inspiring to encourage someone to show up more fully. That's the work.
Yeah, I love it, man. And I've done it. I had to be vulnerable, like in this space, right? To jump on your podcast and talk about my words. But I was trying to be, to your point, like, what are the words that I want to be intentional with that are truly going to show who I'm providing on the outside with that mask, and what are my true feelings on the inside. And so for our leaders, aspiring or current, I want you to go to that website and I want you to do this, because I think it's a perfect time, right? We're going into the school year, but you need to have some reflection about who you are right now as a leader so that you can serve better. And I think this is a great activity to start that off. I want folks to know where to go to learn about your services, because you've got a lot of things that you do with school districts, you do with organizations, you're a nonprofit, but also I want them to connect with you on social media, because I think there's a lot of opportunity for them to see a lot of the brilliant media and content that you've produced over time.
So everforwardclub.org is the website. everforwardclub.org is the website. That's where you can find all of the things that we're up to. If you go all the way down to the bottom, you'll find our social media. On all platforms, we are Ever Forward Club for the organization. Ever Forward Club, no spaces, just all together. And if you're looking for me, if you want to see some of the stuff that I'm trying to put out to help educators, it's Branch Speaks. And that's on all platforms. Branch Speaks, no spaces, all together. And so thank you for the opportunity to share. I wrote a book last year called Diary of a Confused Educator. That was part 1. It was really just some stories about what happens in education that sometimes people would never even imagine, right? The confusions that happen in our minds. And so just know that if you've been journaling, if you've been writing or recording, like, there's a story in you. And so just know that hopefully that story can inspire someone else to. We don't want to chase people away from the profession. It's tough work, but we want to find the right people who want to be here and who know that I'm coming into a work that is so valuable, meaningful, and needed for the moment.
Awesome. Can they get that book on Amazon?
Yeah, it's out there in the world. Yeah.
So I'll make sure that's linked in the show notes too for folks, so they can just click on it and grab that resource. So that's awesome. So when I have you back next time, we'll do a deep dive into that resource, because we didn't even touch on that today.
Yeah, it was, I published it myself. It was like a thing that I've been telling myself I wanted to do. And I've been running from. As a teacher, sometimes we feel like our job is to only teach.
Yeah.
Now I'm not in the classroom anymore. I'm running this nonprofit, but you're so much more than a teacher. And I think I wish I had heard that from mentors earlier in my career. I didn't. But now I'm doing that for other teachers. Like, look, you are a teacher and you're so much more than a teacher. So how do you begin to continue listening to your heart? The Alchemist is my favorite book, right? He says, when fear gets in the way, we can't hear our heart. So, how do we continue listening to our heart? So that's the goal.
Beautiful way to end this conversation, my friend. So you are awesome. I am amazed by your work, what you're doing with young people. I'm so happy that we were able to connect and that you were able to be a guest on Aspire to Lead. So thank you, sir.
Thank you.
This podcast is a proud member of the Teach Better Podcast Network. Better today, better tomorrow, and the podcast to get you there. Explore more podcasts at www.teachbetterpodcastnetwork.com. We'll see you on the next episode.